Lead me to some soul today. Oh, teach me, Lord, just what
Welcome,
to
everyone,
say.
to Leading Others to Christ. This is episode, if you can believe it, this is episode number 80. And we're thrilled that you're here with us today. And my name is Dan Barker, and I'm the one with Matt Malden's help that we started this podcast back during the COVID nonsense. And our whole idea with this is it's focused on evangelism, and we're trying to find those that are out anywhere in the country, and we're going to be going even to other countries, but those that are involved in their community and leading others to Christ. And we want to find out who they are, where they are, how they're doing their work. And it's been so exciting. And we're happy today. We've got Kyle Ellison with us. So welcome, Kyle.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, we're delighted that you were able to take the time and do this today. And I want to just let me do a little part of the intro that I jumped in too quick. I'm so excited to talk to you. I forgot. But those that have been listening to this, you know that I'm passionate about evangelism and have been ever since I obeyed the gospel when I was 21 years old in Owensboro, Kentucky. And I've been striving to learn how to do this. And anytime any books I could find, anybody I could talk to, when Jules Miller, some of you remember Jules Miller film strips when they came out years ago. And I remember when they came out, I went and bought a projector and learned in a screen and learned how to do the reel to reel, and would carry that into people's homes and study with them. But I want to use some of the Bible phrases to get us focused in here of striving to teach others, if you will, sowing the seed, be a fisher for men and women, to make disciples, to persuade men and women, as Paul talked about, knowing the terror of the Lord, he persuades men, and to teach others how to teach. This is one of my passions of teaching others how to fish, if you will. And remembering what Paul said to Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:2, and the things you've heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men, obviously, and women, who will be able to teach others also. And then later in that same chapter, he talks to Timothy about being useful for the master, prepared for every good work. And that's what we're trying to do, is stir people up and keep them motivated and finding ways that they can be useful for the master. And that's, again, some more of the backdrop, if you will, on this podcast. So, Kyle, we're thrilled to death that you were able to take the time and be here with us today. And
Absolutely.
And why don't we start out with, you've listened to a couple of them. I started all of them about the same way, but I call it the elevator pitch or the short bio. Tell everybody who Kyle Ellison is, where you were born, how old you were when you obeyed the God, whatever you'd like to share with us so we can know you better.
Sure. Well, I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and have remained in Birmingham, Alabama. I guess probably, Dan, I'm one of the few preachers in this area that is native to this area. Most of them around here have come from somewhere else. There's a few of us, but so this has been home for I'll be 32 in April. So for all of my life, I obeyed the gospel at 25, I think, if my math is correct. Listen, I'm a preacher. I'm not a mathematician here, so I have to do a little thinking. 25 or 26 years old, and I ever since then I have served with the same congregation, the Mount Olive Church of Christ. We're about 10 miles north of Birmingham, if that gives you a kind of a direction of where we are. And I was married in 2019 to Sarah, and she and I reside now in Warrior, Alabama. And so we've been here, and we work with the church at Mount Olive, and so it's going good. We enjoy it, and I hope, if the Lord allows, we have many more years to come in this work here.
Well, that's awesome. We moved here with the Vestavia congregation back in July of last year. So we're still learning. You mentioned a couple of places there I haven't heard of, and I hear someplace every day here in Alabama, that I don't know. But I can't even learn all the names of the people here in the congregation. I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah.
But well, that's really good. Tell us a little bit about the group there at Mount Olive, if you would.
Yeah, so it's a good group. The church here has existed for the better part of 80 years now. This congregation was established, and when I came in, we it was a good group, but it was an older group, and so we have worked to get our feet under us, get some stability, and get back into this community. What's interesting is that the area here, particularly in the Mount Olive community, right outside of Birmingham, is growing. A lot of younger couples are moving into this community. We're having some just explosive growth right off the interstate here, so it provides a lot of opportunity.
That's
So
great.
as that develops, we are working with our group to really emphasize evangelism, how to evangelize, and so we give God all of the glory for this. But last year, I think we saw upwards of around 7 people baptized, and to some congregations that may not seem like much, but in a congregation of 30, that's life changing, and so.
Yeah, that's incredible. And
Yeah,
like you,
so
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, you're fine. So we glorify God for that, and so as that grows, more people bring people, and so we're seeing good growth among this group, and so we are continuing to evangelize. We're looking for ways to get out in our community. We're continuing to utilize mail outs, door knocking, public Bible studies, and other things. And as that happens, we're seeing younger people. And Dan, I'm hesitant to use the term younger because I do not want it to seem like there's not a place for the older members as well.
Well,
I just
I personally really appreciate that comment. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I don't like that idea of we're just pushing them. That's not it at all. They
Uh,
are, but it's brought a good balance where both age groups and generations are able to work together. And so, as such, the church here is we're running about 35 to 40, maybe a little more, maybe a little less some days. And our next big goal before us is to keep praying that we can establish elders and deacons and just keep going forward for the kingdom.
well, that's so exciting. I'm trying to do. Sometimes I forget, but I want to give a shout out to Sarah. You know, the wives out here. You know, I think sometimes men just in general, but especially maybe preachers. We start expecting them to do the things that they do.
Yes.
But give a shout out to Sarah. How does Sarah help you in the work that you do?
Well, she is a great sounding board. She helps me. First of all, she keeps me grounded. Sometimes my feet can get off the ground, and she helps me in my preaching. Obviously, she's not up doing the preaching, but she helps me in developing a lot of things. She helps me see some weaknesses and strengthen them. She is always willing when I hold meetings to hit the road with me, and so I appreciate that because as any preacher knows, that can be a really long and lonely time, and so it's all if you can have your spouse with you, it's great. And so in that, she's always encouraging, giving pointers, helping, and she's just doing those behind the scene things that I think every preacher leans in on their wife for. In addition to keeping our house up and going, and she does everything I can't, and she is everything that I'm not. Let me just say that.
That's good. That's a good line. Yeah, I like that. Well, you tell her now, and see this way she'll listen to it because we talked about her. But
That's
no,
right. That's right.
But I'm being lighthearted, but we all know how much our wives help, and if it hadn't been for mine, I wouldn't be on this podcast right now. I would probably
Yes.
not be a Christian, and so. But anyway, so we're just thrilled to death with the work that you're doing there, and let's do this because one of the parts that I do this in the podcast is talk about a conversion story. But I want to start out because I know a little bit when we talked the other day. Of course, we haven't met in person, and we're so close here. We need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want let's tell a little bit about your story because I think it's fascinating. And tell everybody about your religious past, if you will, and the journey that you have been on.
Sure. Well, Dan, I was raised in a home that we attended a Baptist church growing up, and I had what I would say is a conversion experience, perhaps around 12, 13 years old. And as I grew on that, I grew I guess a better word is I developed a strong desire to preach. And so by the time I was in high school, and particularly as I was beginning to get to my senior year and graduated, I had decided that I felt that it was important and vital that I pursue ministry full time. And so right out of high school, I took on my first work as a pastor. I was serving as a pastor in a Southern Baptist church, and served there for I think a year, and then I left there, did some interim work as a pastor, and then took on the last church that I had for about 3 years in Coleman County, Alabama. And in 20 and leading up to that time, I would say over the course of 5 or 6 years, I was really wrestling with some doctrinal questions. Some of the questions that bothered me were things like this: what does baptism have to do with, if anything, our salvation? Is it a part at all? And I quite literally reached a place where I would hold what we called revivals, and I would be so fearful that someone would come forward that I wouldn't know what to tell them. Either A, tell them that they needed to pray and receive Jesus into their heart, and if I did that, I wasn't comfortable with that, or B, tell them they needed to be baptized for the remission of sins. And I knew that if I did that in the middle of one of these meetings, the backlash it wouldn't be good. And I did so I was torn. You see, I had this problem during this time as I was wrestling deeply with these doctrinal questions. I had met Sarah. Sarah was a member of the church, and we had dated off and on, but we knew that our faith was not compatible as far as marriage. Somehow I reasoned in my mind she would go to where she went to church, I would go to where I went to church. But we came to the place we knew that wasn't so, and I kept wrestling. I kept fighting with this. I kept struggling, and ultimately I came to the place where I said, you know what, I've got to do something. I've got to make a difference. I've got to make a change. This isn't right. And so on July the 22nd, 2016, I decided to obey the gospel of Jesus Christ and was baptized in Fultondale, Alabama. Sarah was there with me, and from there, I set out on a journey to reevaluate everything I believed, everything that I knew. And for the sake of time here, I won't go into all of it, but just bear this in mind. The day that I'm baptized on that Friday, I'm still a pastor at a Baptist church, and so we've got a dilemma here. And that Sunday, I went in, I resigned, had a very cordial meeting. I won't get into the details of that here, maybe another time. But we had a meeting, and in love, I told them that I had to make a change, that I felt that we were wrong, and I needed to follow Jesus in the way more perfectly. And I resigned and left. And 7 months later, I had an opportunity to fill in at Mount Olive, and the rest is history.
Wow. Well, there's as the one doing the interview, there's so many questions that come to mind here, but
Sure.
Just the fact that I didn't grow up in the church either, and I grew up in the Baptist church, so I can relate to coming to terms, if you will, with doctrinal things that I wasn't taught growing up,
Yes.
And so I appreciate the things that you've gone through. And when we get to the end, I'll ask you to, if you're willing to share your contact information. Maybe there's somebody out here that's listening that might be struggling with the same things, or they might have family or friends that they don't know how to help them, and
Yes, absolutely.
maybe you could help, and that's incredible.
Sure, sure.
The other thing that that comes to mind too is that, and just thinking about this, is that, and I want this to sound right, but growing up, if I can use that language, growing up in the church versus growing up not outside of the church in a different background and everything, and then coming to understand the truth, I really appreciate what people go through. I appreciate and understand, and every story is different, but I can understand the frustrations and the anxiety and just the big puzzle that's there until everything clicks, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then and somebody growing up in the church, they can't relate to that because that's all they've ever known.
Right.
And
yes.
so when they see somebody struggling, they have a hard time relating to that and say, well, why, this is easy. Why can't you see this? Right.
Right.
And they have a hard time even trying to lead somebody to Christ because they don't understand. So I think because of the experience that you've had, excuse me, and you can address this, but I think it has, don't you think it has helped equip you to be able to teach others?
I feel like it has. And again, I want to be clear. I think both sides have their advantages, but Brother Dan, one thing that I have noticed is that many, especially those who are third and fourth generation Christians that come up in the church, I want to be careful saying this, but sometimes there is a spirit of apathy that develops with what they have. I came into it out of a denomination that was, it was like a cool drink of water, I guess is the best way I could explain it. You know, it amazed me. Are you telling me that there is a way I can simply be just a Christian in the 21st century, that I can do these things in the scripture and not have to argue around them, or, you know, I could just take them head on and accept them for what they say. And I thought that was amazing. And it has not yet become old to me, if you will. I think some, like I said, have become comfortable with the idea of having New Testament Christianity today, and I'm talking about those of us in the church. So yeah, I think there is an excitement there, if you will. It's a new thing. It's a new thing every day, and I'm the only person in my family who is even associated with the churches of Christ. And so this is brand new territory for me, and it's exciting.
Well, it is exciting, and I'm excited for you. And we definitely are going to get together. But yeah, just the opportunity for you to be able to say to somebody, look, it's just, can you? I've often thought about Saul, who became obviously Apostle Paul.
Yes.
As adamant as he was, you know, not believing in Christ, and then after he comes to understand the truth,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a couple of days, isn't it, that he in where he had gone to arrest Christians. Now he's there telling everybody that Jesus really is the Christ.
Yes.
And that same zeal, the same zeal that he had in a negative way, he continues it now and sharing the gospel. It's just an incredible story.
Yes.
But I think we can relate a little bit what it's like to be on the other side, if you will, and then to be able to see the truth. But
yes,
it's just, you know, and it's an understatement to say it's good news. I mean, you know, it's like, it's better than good news.
It's the best news.
It's the best news. That's
yes.
right. And to help to be able to know it, that we know it, and I tell you this too. I'm still learning. I'll be 77 in April, but I tell everybody I'm still learning, and
yes.
And that excites me too. What's the old saying? The deeper you go in the book, the deeper you can go. But
yes,
the more you can learn. But
absolutely.
Well, I appreciate so much your story there. And if you can believe it, Matt just gave me the signal. We've got 5 minutes to go. This is
Wow.
just gone. I know this has gone too fast. I'm not going to. Do you want to tell a conversion story? Because yours is the main one I wanted to cover. Is there one that
Yeah.
you want to share?
Yeah. Well, so one that stands out to me since
Yeah.
I have become a preacher of the gospel in the last 2 years is we had a gentleman, and I'll tell you my point to this, and I'll go quick. We had a gentleman who had attended faithfully at Mount Olive for I guess, the better part of 50 years, brought his wife for years, but he had never become a Christian. And later in his 80s, he became homebound. And I remember getting a phone call one day. It said he's made a decision to obey the gospel.
Wow.
And here I am, a new preacher. It's the middle of COVID, and I've got to figure out how to baptize this man. So we blew a pool up in his yard, and it was about this time of year, so the water would have been a little cold. We got it out in the sun to try to heat it up, and we were able to bring this elderly gentleman outside, and like six of us lower him into a pool and baptize him. And I want to tell you why that stands out to me is because it reminds me of two things. First of all, the gospel is powerful. And second of all, as long as there's breath, there's opportunity.
Yes.
This gentleman had sat in services. He had heard the preaching of the gospel. And as an evangelist, as you said, sometimes I want to say, why is it not clicking? What's the problem? But little do we know that God is working on hearts through his powerful word behind the scenes. And it may have taken this man some 50 years, but he made a decision, and I got to stand and do his funeral after that with great expectation that I'll see him again. And so that is one story of many that has happened over the last few years that as a minister gives me encouragement to keep preaching, because you never know who's listening, who's contemplating it, and who is up to make their next eternal decision that will change the course of their life.
Oh, that's so good. And is he still alive?
He's not. He
He's not.
passed away. I
Well, you
guess about
said, yeah, I'm sorry. You said you did his funeral. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. He
But
passed away about 8 or 9 months after that. After he made that decision.
is his wife still alive?
She's not. She had passed away, and that was another thing. She passed away
Wow.
before him, and so
Before him.
she
Wow.
got to see. Well, rather, I can't help but believe that she got to look from the banisters of heaven, if you will, and see the fruit of her work as a faithful wife all of those years, and to see her husband after she had gone. And I just wonder what it was like if they were reunited in the by and by, and she saw him that day after the seed she had sown.
Wow. This is so many stories. All
Yeah.
right. You've heard a couple of the podcast, and I end it with what I call one thing. And obviously, there's not one thing, but somebody that's listening to this, maybe you've got them stirred up, and maybe they're wanting to learn how to do this, leading others to Christ. What would be one thing that you would say that they need to learn how to do to do this?
If there was one thing you needed to learn how to do, it's how to love people. Uh, Love people, love them where they are, invest in them. I live by this saying: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If you want to share the gospel with somebody, I'm not telling you need to know Greek, Hebrew, you need to know every scripture, but you need to know how to love people. Love them right where they are, be invested in their life, buy them a cup of coffee, buy them a meal, get to know them, and then share with them the greatest life-changing story that has ever been told, and that is of Jesus Christ. So if you want to be an effective minister of Jesus, an evangelist, a teacher, wherever you are, learn to love people.
Oh, that's excellent. That is so true. We could talk a long time about the power of building relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a critical part of the whole process. And why would I listen to you about anything unless we've developed a relationship where I feel comfortable with you and have some confidence in you? I don't care what it is that we're talking
absolutely.
about. But yeah, to be able to love people, that's really good. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the contact information that you're willing to share?
If you want to reach out to me, you can call or text me 205-514-3819. If I don't answer, leave me a voicemail, shoot me a text. I'm on Facebook, or if you want to email me, it's Kyle Ellison 420@yahoo.com. So feel free to shoot me an email. My contact info is open 24/7. So you get a hold of me anytime.
All right, that's great. Obviously, you can tell we try to keep these short, and we've had several people say they need to be longer, and I say I know, but thank you so much, and
Thank y'all for having me.
you've got a great story, and we're thankful to God that you were able to see the truth, and that you have the passion that you do to lead others to Christ. So keep up your good work there.
Sure will, brother.
Lord willing, we'll get together soon.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Kyle.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Who pray, melt my heart and fill my life. Give me one soul today.